Hi, welcome to Spilling the Coffee. My name is Azalea.
I'm Taylor.
And today we're going to be talking about conflict resolution in the workplace.
The first thing I think is you don't want to avoid the problem, right? So you want to try to prevent conflict as much as possible by having great communication between coworkers or even your supervisor.
Right, I totally agree, Taylor. I think that in a work environment, when you're full of different people, there's going to be different working styles.
Which is important.
Yeah, of course. But, if a conflict does arise, just know that you can talk about it and it can be resolved before it escalates. So don't be afraid to be honest with the person.
One of the things that I think is helpful is that you don't try to avoid conflict just because it makes the workplace even more intense. So you want to just address it head on, nip it in the bud, and be honest. Be honest on how you feel and what's going on.
Right, having an honest, earnest conversation with whether it's a coworker or a superior, there's nothing wrong with that. You're both human, you're especially in work situations, tensions can rise, but just know that it doesn't have to turn into this big blowout.
Which leads us to our next point, talk it out. Sometimes our feelings get in the way of the facts of what happened or why the conflict even arose in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I always try to stick to the facts.
Yeah, and it can be hard to kind of separate the two, but understand that the more you're able to separate yourself from the conflict, the more likely you are to be objective, the more likely you are to compromise, and the more likely you are to find a resolution and a happy medium for both, right, where you both are happy.
Yeah, I always try to put myself in the other person's shoes, because if you can see it from someone else's perspective, then maybe you can understand where they were coming from. If you can't work it out between each other and you can't just come to a common ground, then you always want to go to your superior. That's very important.
Right, sometimes you do need a mediator, and a superior is an excellent mediator. That's part of that's part of their jobs. But just always remember that you also want to have a paper trail.
Right.
If you have to escalate it to HR or to your superior, do it over email, because you always want to have your proof that you tried to resolve things in a professional and
appropriate way.
So that was this episode of Spilling the Coffee. We'll see you guys next time.